Well, hello everyone. I'm back. It's Darren Saul here, your host of Saul Searching, the Saul Recruitment Podcast, episode 37. And the topic of today is how to market your career in the new world with the fabulous Gillian Kelly. How you doing, Gillian?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me, Darren.
Thank you for joining me with your lovely t-shirt.
It's my theme.
I love it. Now, for everyone out there, Gillian is a career development coach, multi-credentialed master executive resume writer, and personal branding strategist with global writing experience. Over the past 15 years, she has worked with top-tier leaders and professionals in the creation of high-impact marketing materials that showcase the immense caliber of their talent, depth of expertise, and unique leadership brands. As a multiple winner in the Toast of the Resume Industry Awards, she is highly sought after for her talent in executive resumes, LinkedIn profiles, executive biographies, and leadership brand positioning. My God, Gillian, you're keeping me busy. As leader of the Outplacement Australia career marketing team, she works uniquely with senior leadership and senior management professionals during career transition to maximize their impact. So big welcome to Gillian Kelly with all that incredible experience.
I know, Darren, that went for ages.
That was a tongue twister.
It makes me sound old when it goes for that long.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you on the show to share all that great expertise with the audience.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure to be here. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Fantastic. So I'd love to kind of maybe just take a step back and tell us a bit more about how you got into this in the first place and why you love it so much. It's always great to hear that.
It is the backstory. As you can tell from that, I've been in this industry for a while. I think I started when my son was 2 and he's now 22. So it gives you a way back. I pretty much started in the industry as a resume writer when that wasn't really a thing. Resume writers were pretty rare back then. There was only a handful of us around, and I think there was a little bit of suspicion about the whole concept of why we would need resume writers and all the rest. But I'd actually started my career in marketing, and Josh, the one that I was just talking about then, he had some heart surgery when he was young, and I decided to get out of the corp world and start doing my own thing. And I always knew that that was an issue for people. People struggled to market themselves. They struggled when it came to telling their story. And it's something that I've found over the years in every sector: journalists, speakers, anybody, HR, recruiters, resume writers. We all struggle when it comes to actually telling our own story. And I think even then I knew that that was a place that I could bring value.
Awesome. And so that's where it started in terms of the marketing, how you market yourself through a resume.
It was. And as I say, it started in resumes, and I guess along the way, that evolved into quite pragmatic job search support, so the interviewing piece and those sorts of things. But as that was developing, I guess I attracted quite a few execs and professionals along the way. And what I found was I was getting more and more professionals and executives coming to me who had been through the process of redundancy, which is a terrible process. And back then it wasn't as common as it is now. I mean, now, back then you'd see somebody and it's their first time going through it. Now it's like their 4th and their 5th time going through it. But they were coming to me saying, I need help with the pragmatic parts. I need you to help me with my resume and my application letter and those sorts of things. And I was kind of like, why are you coming to me when you've got outplacement support? And I saw that there was at that stage, it was, as I say, 10 years ago now, there was a gap in the market for both that career development piece, but that came with practical, hands-on career marketing, I guess, insight. So that's what we did. I opened what was Outplacement Brisbane back then, and we had a team of resume writers, and the works working with a team of really highly qualified career coaches. And then we became Outplacement Queensland, and then now we're Outplacement Australia, and we've been doing it ever since. Yeah.
And I love that term, career marketing. It's not a term that you hear very often, but it's a great term.
Yeah, no, it's not, but that's what it is.
Yeah,
In
it is.
the
Career
barest
marketing.
of terms, that that's what it is, and I think it's an undervalued term, probably.
100%, and it can mean so many things. So let's actually unpack that. I mean, what does career marketing mean to you? And maybe let's explore exactly all the different elements within that.
Yeah, and it's one of those terms that's, I think, evolving as the workforce is evolving and the world of work is evolving. But in the simplest terms, I think career marketing is understanding how to promote your value in person, in print, and now online as well. So it's about communicating your value, but to a potential hirer or to the marketplace at large, and being able to do it in a very concise, powerful way so that it resonates with the person. And I think, that's it in a nutshell.
Love it. And that's so important in this day and age, because everything is so driven by technology and the internet and your online persona.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to know how to market yourself to the masses using technology and using LinkedIn and using websites and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But of course, that has to be balanced with how you are in person and whoever else you meet in the street, because it has to be in line with your online brand. But it's so important these days.
Yeah, and it's a big process. I think that people think it's writing, but it's not. It's really, it's not doing all of that. It's discovering what you offer and being able to articulate that in a way that's actually really genuine and really human, I think. And that takes time. That takes time to really get to know somebody. And hopefully you have somebody who's with you and digging to go back through your career to uncover all those layers and see the things that you just do genuinely well, and that you love doing, and that people start to know you for doing, and then translate that into stories that resonate with the hirer. So I think that's important. And I think also people have got to realize it's their pitch. It's not just your story, it's your pitch. We're time poor. Give me the pitch. Tell me why.
Give it to me straight. Give it to me in 30 seconds. And, if I'm interested, I'll ask you some more questions.
And then I'll go and check you out.
Yes, exactly.
If I'm interested, tell me what your value is, and then if I'm interested, I'll go and ask everybody else if that's really is.
But you hit the nail on the head there, because not enough people really spend the time when they're starting this process to really nut out and articulate and go journey inward to understand who they actually are and what they actually offer. People just tend to think, oh, I've always done this. This is what I do now. This is my job description. Let's just put something together that's kind of in line with all that. But that's not taking into account really who you are and what you want out of life.
And we are so much more than our job titles.
Oh, of course.
And particularly because these days, and again, it comes back to what you were talking about before, but I think the world of work is changing so fast. Job titles don't stay anymore. So you really do need to have an understanding of what your skill, strengths are, and all of those sorts of things, because you do need to be more than that job title. You need to be broader than that now.
Absolutely.
And more specialized at the same time.
It's so true. You're going to be multi-talented these days.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think if you really understand who you are as a person, professionally and personally, then you can be more authentic in any situation. And that's the key. Yeah. You don't have to be thinking, which mask do I put on now?
No. And didn't COVID help with that so much? I loved that about COVID. I love the fact that we started to see the real people in their, their normal backgrounds, in their normal ways. And we saw some of the people, I was on webinars last year with some really impressive people, but I just loved seeing the real them in their own homes on their, it's fabulous.
With everything cluttered in the background and the pets barking in the yard and the babies crying and everything else.
Yeah. But we like to get to know people on that basis. And as I say, I think that's the challenge, and particularly when it comes to LinkedIn, which is, Darren, what sort of, I guess, how I met you through your podcast and everything else. LinkedIn's a little bit about, a bit more about you. And I think that's why we like it. It's both the workspace, but with a little bit of this social interaction, the real us.
100%. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So I'd love to kind of dig a little bit more. And I know we've spoken a little bit offline on this topic, but I really wanted to pick your brain because it sounds like you've really got a wealth of knowledge to communicate in this area. And when we spoke, you mentioned that, of late, and also you foresee for the future, that the rules of job seeking and hiring are going to change, or have changed, and are going to change further.
Yeah.
I'd love to kind of get your take on what's been happening and where do you see it changing?
Look, there's so much changing, isn't there? I mean, the amount of things that's changing in the world of work at the moment is massive, and the implications that has to both organizations and people, I think, is massive. And we could talk about the gig economy and remote working and all of those things, but probably one of the areas that I guess we were talking about the other day was the impact that technology is having on hiring and the world of hiring, how hiring is occurring, and how job search therefore is going to evolve in line with that. I think we've been talking, and I know that you mentioned in sort of your area of work as well, being proactive in the recruitment space. I think organizations, especially before COVID with the talent shortages and everything else, were very quickly realizing that you need to be proactive when it comes to finding talent now.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. And it's look at you, like, yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, especially in particular sectors like, tech, so yeah, I'm sure you are very familiar with that piece.
I haven't seen a market like this in 20 years that I've been in the industry. It's incredible.
Wow. And so, I think that proactive piece of pipeline building, going to the market and finding talent that's going to match and trying to engage them, all of those sorts of things has been happening for a while. But I think the interesting part that's happening now is the technology that's suddenly bursting onto the scene. I mean, we've had technology for a while, but like every industry, suddenly we're seeing a real acceleration in the technologies in the different industries, and hiring's no exception to that, I don't think. And I'm looking at the technologies that are out there that are now enabling hirers or, talent acquisition people to actually go out and find talent in a way that they hadn't been able to do before through all the new AI stuff that's coming out. And not just find talent in new ways, in new places, how to engage that talent, how to screen that talent, how to remove bias. There's just so much happening in that.
Oh my God, it just makes me think, how many pieces of software, how many applications do I have to learn?
I know, isn't it? And honestly, I'm sure every week when I go to my inbox, there's a new technology that starting to hit the market that's being talked about that I've never heard about before. And I'm like, what's this one? What's that, mean? But
out of control.
I think the sourcing, last year I saw the GEM survey, and they were saying the number one area that talent acquisition people were looking at investing was the sourcing technologies space. And I think that's a really interesting area, because there's so many technologies now that are enabling hirers to go out to market, find people on the open market, create these lists that align with their criteria at speeds that they've never been able to before. You know what I mean?
Wow. Any particular software or applications come to mind?
Yeah, there's lots out there, and they're all cool in their own kind of way, I guess. As I say, I don't use these technologies. When I'm looking at these technologies, for me, it's like, what does this mean to the job seeker? But one of the ones I looked at the other day was Find'em, which is, again, it's one of those technologies. On their website, I think they say that the automated matching, outreach, and interested candidates all achieved at 10 times the usual speed, less than 10 minutes per role, drawing upon public sources of data to assemble multi-dimensional professional profiles of 700 million people, to glean searchable attributes. And they talk about basically finding within 10 minutes, hirer comes in, puts their thing in, it goes out, assesses them, it sends out outreach, and then they're getting these.
Oh my! And where are these technologies scouring? Are they scouring social media platforms? Are they scouring everything?
They're scouring everything, and open sources of data, I guess, like LinkedIn is for the amount of data that's in that place. That's obviously been the recruiter's hunting ground for a very long time now. And I remember when it came out at the beginning, saying to people, you should check it out. It's something that's a nice to have, and now I'm like, it's not a nice to have. It's a must have. So it's doing all of that. And even within their own data sources, these tools are now letting them hit back into their ATSs in a way that they hadn't been able to do before for candidate rediscovery. So these have all got implications for job search, of course. You know, it means that in the world of work, I think that we're going to see as these technologies get adopted more and more, and of course they're in their infancy now, but as they do, I think what we're going to see in the world of work is the work finding us. You know, the work, people will get, the hirers will go to market looking for someone, and they will have the tools to be able to find somebody based on their digital footprint and the information that's out there. And I think that means that really people need to be starting to think very carefully about how they want to create that online footprint, what it's saying about them. Are they getting found now in LinkedIn? I'm pretty sure if you're in the tech space, you're getting found on LinkedIn.
Oh, definitely, for sure.
But for more and more people, I think that is the case. And that, as I say, that's about being strategic about your brand building, about your optimization, about your storytelling, and of course, then all the strategy pieces that go with that, relationship building and social capital and, you know, all of those other nice pieces. So yeah, it's an interesting world we're entering.
So really people have got to be very, very attentive and aware about how they're showing up everywhere, because very soon you don't know what that's going to mean. People are going to be finding you and using that to screen you and to vet you in all different directions.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's even software out there that is already looking at how engaged the candidate is in the process, how many times they're opening things that are being sent out, you know, how warm they are as a candidate. God. So, you know, there's lots of these technologies. I think from a job search perspective, though, it means now for people, up until now, it's been a reactive job search. You go to market, you look for a job, you hit up the job board, you know, you send an application. But now that, you know, it's not just the push advertising, it's the pull, that strategies you need in job search. So you need to be looking for work and creating targeted responses, but also attracting interest.
100%.
And boy, if you can attract the interest, how much easier is that than the other way around?
That's like the holy grail. If you can, and that's why I'm so passionate about branding, because if you can build, and branding goes for candidates and job seekers as well as clients and employers.
Oh, absolutely. Transparency for all. Yeah.
You know, I'm so passionate about it, because if you have a strong brand, job seeker brand or client or customer brand or employer brand, it attracts people to you.
Yeah.
And that is the holy grail. I mean, isn't that much easier than doing all this exhausting work, hacking away one by one?
Yeah.
You know, and we still have to do that. But if you can really have a strong candidate marketing strategy, it can take a hell of a lot of work off your shoulders.
Absolutely. And as you say, you know, it's all, there's so much transparency now out there, and there will be for, you know, more and more as we go on. Glassdoor's got it for the organizations, all the social media side, you know, and everything else has got it for the candidates. We're starting to emerge into this world where there's no place to hide.
And I remember, years ago, people used to say, make sure you block your Facebook page so only your friends can see it, because they don't want to see what you did on Saturday night.
Yeah.
That's nothing compared to what's going on these days. That's like old school.
Yeah. And that, you know, and again, I keep watching all of those technologies coming out about profile augmentation that, you know, gives you the insights and all the rest. And it's a fascinating area, a complex, fascinating area that I'm just watching and going, you know, I can't wait to see where this goes. And, you know, then there's the privacy pieces. There's just so much to it. It's fascinating.
But I kind of, as I'm listening to you, the more and more I'm thinking that, because it's becoming so complicated and there's going to be so much noise and so much volume out there of all these tools and AI, and it's almost going to be impossible to keep up. It's almost getting to the point where we have to take a step back and go back to basics.
Yeah.
And if we really go back to basics and just know that, as we said at the beginning of this conversation, you have to be authentic, you have to put your best foot forward, but it has to be your true self in every avenue of your life, whether it's online or offline. And then things will happen naturally because you are being true to who you are.
I absolutely agree. And I think the human piece,
Yep.
The human to human connection piece. So whilst all these technologies are enabling all of these new searches and everything else, it still does come back to the human, always. It always comes back to him. And the referral, is still like
definitely.
a warm introduction into an organization from someone who knows you well and knows that organization, so it still comes back to the human, even in this tech hiring world.
Definitely. And again, that's all, just a soliciting a referral or getting a referral is an extension of your career marketing or candidate marketing strategy.
And that's part of the strategies that we are definitely, when we're working with candidates, that's a huge part of what we'd be talking with them about is, how you navigate that. And that is a big piece of it.
100%.
Yeah.
So let's hear a bit more about how you actually work with people and what kind of expertise you have, what services you provide.
Well, as I say, I guess our Placement Australia, our team here, we work with organisations when they're going through workforce change, usually that's resulting in redundancies, unfortunately. And as you know, that's just part of the world of work now, so much change. So we work with people when they're going through that experience. It's a bit of a rough trot, as you can imagine, it's a tough time for people. So
obviously the companies engage you to provide outplacement services.
Yeah, that's right. So the companies pay us as, our career coaching team, which is career coaches, interview coaches, job search strategists, resume writers, LinkedIn profile writers, personal branding strategists, you name it, whatever, we have on a whole suite of people that we use. And basically the organisation engages us to help people move forward confidently during that period because it's a change we didn't want usually. We didn't ask for it. So it's quite confronting as an experience to go through. And B, a lot of people, whilst it's happening increasingly more, there are still so many people out there that may not have been in the new world of work, for a very long time. And so it has changed. There is so much that's changed. So having somebody there to help you work out, well, for us, the starting piece is what next? What do you want to do? What will you enjoy? What's a great option given the changing nature of the workplace? Where's the good areas of opportunity and prospects moving forward? Yep. And then how are you going to get there? Let's talk the strategy. Let's talk about that push and pull I was talking about, all the different ways to go to market. Let's talk about your career marketing collateral. So let's, work on that resume so that you're really showcasing your background well, and it's pitching you to, in the right vein to potential hirers. Get you confident in the interview, because again, if you haven't faced an interview for a long time, look at we all thought we knew interviews, and then last year came along, and of course then the whole video platforms, and the hirers and the candidates are all relearning.
Yep, and everybody's saying, "Oh, hold on, you're on mute. Just have to unmute yourself."
Yeah, can you hear me?
Things like that. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So, it was a brand new world for all of us, from both sides of the table, but also that, the one-way interviews as well. So there's lots to learn. Yeah. And we have the rare privilege of being able to be with people during that journey, from a rough time at the beginning to hopefully them finding something really fabulous, and often their first experience working with professional career practitioners, and qualified people to help. So yeah, I love my job. I love my job.
And do you work Australia wide now because of technology? Like this?
We've got career coaches in every state. We work in New Zealand as well. So across Australia, regional areas, we've got career coaches all over the place. Resume writers, we have an extensive team of resume writers, quite a lot of award-winning resume writers, because I sit on the Toast of the Resume Industry Award, so I tend to pick out the good ones and try and get them to come and work for us, and say, keep my eyes on that market. So we've got great people here, and they tend to work remotely, but the career coaches all work in place. So unless they're in New South Wales or Victoria now, in which case not so face to face.
Okay, so like a lot of what you do is really joint or branded under the outplacement service type of model. Do you work directly with job seekers?
We also have a second arm called the career agency that works with the public, with individuals who are self-funding themselves through the process. They work pretty much with the same team just under a different banner. So whether people are saying, I want to make a change, or whether people have been forced into making a change, we work with them to make sure that change is positive.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, and,
So,
and again, the world is changing so much. You guys have to keep on top of the new trends, the new technologies, the new systems, content marketing, video. I mean, my God, where does it end?
Yeah, hence why I spend most of my day online watching new technologies, listening into recruiter panels to hear what you people are talking about and what's bothering you and what you're changing, all those sorts of things, so that we can keep up with exactly what's going on and give candidates the best advantage they can, because as you say, pretty hard to keep up with it on your own.
Yeah, and on that point, actually, do you delve into the world of helping people with content creation in terms of just video content that's going to showcase them on their LinkedIn profile, for example, or something along those lines?
We don't do the video creation. We direct them to people who does video creation. I know some great people in that space, and that's their field. You don't want me helping you with you. But what we do, I guess, the area that we work with in that is helping them unpack everything that they need for that branding piece, so that when they are working with that, the story is there, the positioning is there, all of those elements that are important.
Is there,
and then they can make them look good.
That's right. If the foundation is strong, you can do anything. You can put a video together, you can put something, an audiogram, you can write a blog, you can do whatever, but it's all it all starts with the right foundation.
Yeah, and we do definitely encourage people to be taking control of that proactive brand building, through all of those mediums. Absolutely.
Wow, fantastic. Now, Gillian, I always love to tell a bit of a story or get a bit of an anecdote or a case study. So obviously, without mentioning any names, but have you got anything that comes to mind that really showcases the power of what you do in helping people secure something faster than they thought they might have?
Look, we work with such a diversity of people. We have helped lawyers become forestry workers. We've helped people when they're, we do a lot of complex transition. We work with lots of defense. So we've helped people from defense move into all sorts of avenues, which is fascinating because it's quite a complex transition, moving from the defense space to the civilian world. We're lots and lots of things. Through COVID, there was a lot of obviously industry shifting, and also, the automotive sector. We worked extensively with the automotive sector when that industry was closing down here in Australia. And, if you're an automotive technician or engineer, there wasn't really an option of then just hopping over to another job. It was, I need to find a new pathway. So we worked with lots of those. I remember in one of the people that we worked with there moved from being an automotive engineer to being in the fashion sector. Right. So huge change, which was through quite a fun Insta kind of approach that we took to her brand building.
Okay.
But even recently, as I say, a lot of the time, what we were doing is working with people who haven't been out for a while. So I know I think it was last week, we heard back from one of the people that had been out she pretty much had a career with one organization the whole time. So she didn't have a resume, didn't have any of those pieces. And we worked with her and all of that. And we heard back from her that she'd secured 4 interviews. I think one of them led to within a week sort of period, but they'd all had, she said, 300 plus applicants, which is that's pretty big for Australia, in particular areas. I can't talk about sector, but sure. And so she had landed something fabulous, which was great. But that's not that's the common thread that most of people are making. There's usually some element of complexity to the transitions, a pivot to something new. I haven't been out for a while, a change in career identity, actually, or a challenge.
On that point, actually, I'd like to ask you that so everybody can get the benefit of your answer, because I'm sure everybody's thinking while you're speaking, like I am, what is the best way for people to go about transitioning to an area that they've never worked in before? It's always a tough thing to do. If you can't show any experience in something, what do you say to that?
That is so hard, and yet it is probably the most common issue that I am seeing at the moment. So it used to be we were very linear in our careers, and now we've got this like squiggle of a career going on.
Right. And I think they say that these days people change their career 6-7 times in a lifetime, and all these stats and whatever.
Absolutely. And not only that, but you're finding that the career pathways are changing so fast as well. So a lot of the time people are being forced into a pivot now as well. Yep. And in fact, I think, the real indication of that for me was that, as I say, one of the things that I sit on is judging the annual resume awards, and they've introduced a difficult transitions category into that, because so many resume writers are now working with people to help with difficult transitions. And the bottom line, and I think on that, always comes back to the piece of it's your pitch. So it's moving away from it's your story to it's your pitch. And often what that involves is understanding really, really clearly what they are looking for, and then unpackaging, the career story that you had before, unpicking it and rebuilding it in a way that makes sense to the hirer. So you're not changing what you did, but you're putting the focus on the bits of your story that are most relevant to them and will, resonate with their pain points. What are the problems that are keeping them up at night, and how can you solve them and get that across as fast as you can in your letter and your resume and your LinkedIn and your pitch, when you're in the elevator, whatever, get it across. I love that.
It's your story versus your pitch. I think that's just brilliant.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense.
It's not easy though. I do think it's a challenging thing, and I think careers are much more complex than they used to be, and that's harder for people when they're making that move. But also, again, I'm seeing technologies out there that are helping hirers more start to hire for skills than job titles, and I like seeing that.
Yeah, and I was just about to say, hirers are probably starting, or they have been for a while, but more and more so in the future, they might hire for, softer skills and all the rest of it, and not so much not be so focused on exactly what you have and haven't done, as long as they can see that you have the capability to do something new.
That's right. So not so much on the past, but on the potential.
Exactly.
I think that's, And I love seeing that. And I think, I don't know that the resume will always be the vehicle for that. I think there may emerge different ways that comes out for people, but I think regardless, the marketing piece will always.
Definitely, 100%. It's fascinating when you think about it. And you're right. I think, it's going to move more towards your whole online profile, your whole online persona, everything about you, more than just the resume. The resume is almost redundant. It's almost becoming like a business card these days.
A little bit, it's a small piece of the puzzle instead of the entirety of your application now.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. It gives people a more holistic approach, a more holistic look at you, I think.
Definitely. I love it. Well done. And so, Gillian, if people want to work with you and your team, how do they find you?
You can find us on our websites, outplacementaustralia.com.au if you're an organisation looking to help your people, or thecareeragency.com.au if you're, looking to make a change yourself, or you can just find me on LinkedIn. Look for Gillian Kelly on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people, so by all means, reach out and say hi.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, Gillian, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been absolutely fantastic. I'm going to have you back again, because there's so many avenues that we've identified, I think, that need a deep dive.
Sounds terrific.
I'd love to do that again, and we'll come back. And if the audience has any particular questions, or you want any particular information about certain things, please let me know.
Yeah.
And or let Gillian know, and we'd love to do another show for you.
That sounds fantastic.
I really appreciate you coming on the show. I'm going to put all the links and all the websites in the show notes for everybody. And I always like to give my guest the last word. So in terms of, what are you seeing these days? Any particular challenges, any little tips or tricks that you can help people in this time for succeeding in working, finding the right role, et cetera, et cetera?
I think in my industry, the thing that is the most relevant that I would tell to people is don't wait with your career. Be proactive, take control. I think a lot of people get to the point where they're forced into a change and then they're chasing the wave to catch up. Yep. These days, I think in the future, and particularly in the future of work, you want to be taking control of things now, building that brand, really discovering your story, finding your voice, all of those sorts of things. Do that now. And because I think in the future work, the proactive will rule.
I love that. That's so true. And on that point, actually, what are your thoughts on people if they can, obviously, not everybody can do this for different reasons, but if you can have a bit of a side hustle for a little while in an area that you're passionate about, and then one day that might become your full-time.
I think that's the story for a lot of people at the moment.
Absolutely.
And again, another complexity for resume writers to try and weave into resumes now,
Oh,
how all those pieces join together and link.
For resume writers, I don't want to become a resume writer. It's all getting too hard. That's impressive.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll leave the tech recruiting to you too. That sounds harder to me.
I wonder sometimes. But Gillian, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. Everybody out there, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And check out Gillian and everything she does with her team on her website. And we'll be back very, very soon for another episode of Soul Searching, the Soul Recruitment Podcast. Bye for now. Thanks again, Gillian.
Bye.